There is sort of a mystique to AI. I think that people are scared of it.
AI can go deeper and farther than the individual can. Without a doubt, AI is going to take some jobs. And in the end, it created more jobs.
It will replace some repetitive tasks. The humans need to be part of that process.
AI is just another tool in an artist's toolbox. If you're an artist, you will create art.
AI would be in every marketing platform that we use.
I really believe that the only limitation of AI is our imagination.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Frustrated by Your Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Jim DeMicco, and today I am joined by Paula Phelan. She is the COO of Intelligent Relations and an AI expert. If you were to run all of our show notes through AI or ChatGPT and ask it for the most often talked about word, I'm going to guess that number one would be marketing and number two would probably be AI, because we've talked about it a lot. This year, we launched our podcast, and this year it's probably the top topic in marketing and maybe every industry as it's starting to disrupt all sorts of different markets and all sorts of different businesses. So super excited to talk to Paula. We had a great conversation last week, just getting to know each other, and she's a wealth of information about AI, and we're going to talk about in particular how it's affecting marketing industry, and there might be a little bit just about AI in general. So welcome, Paula. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Looking forward to demystifying AI in all its various forms.
Yeah, and that raises a good point. So there is sort of a mystique to AI. I think that people are scared of it, or they're either excited or scared, or maybe a little bit of both. I think I'm more excited than scared, but I do know a lot of people are worried about it taking jobs away and, making things less personalized. So have you seen any of that in your travels over the last year or before? Because I know you've been doing AI for a lot longer than most of us have been playing around with it.
Well, yes, is the answer to the question, all those statements and questions, but yes, without a doubt, AI is going to take some jobs because it is getting rid of redundancy and things that can be done simpler that individuals currently are doing. However, it's going to be adding to jobs. So one of the things I was thinking about, if we put it in context of where we've been in the past and where we are now, originally, if you think back just to the 70s, that isn't that long ago. We were doing everything manually. It was in books, accounting, general ledger, inventory control was all being done manually through books. And then eventually mainframe access became available to businesses outside of government and such. And we started being able to have very structured data. And then we moved on to client server and such, and we had relational data. So we were able to take all the data that we had and actually be able to make something of it. But AI takes it to an incredibly next level, right? So we are just following a progression here because AI can handle all the unstructured data. We have so much more data now because of the internet and smartphones and such, that this is the first technology that can take all of that data in and actually do something useful with it. So that being the case, if you look at that trajectory I just talked about, everybody worried about losing jobs through every single phase of that. And in the end, it created more jobs. And we're going to see the same thing with AI.
Yeah, that's how I look at it too. In my mind, it will replace some repetitive tasks, some likely, I think the research assistant job is going to all but disappear, but now that opens up another position for that person to do something more high level. So it might flatten some industries a little bit. It might allow somebody to accomplish more, but then if one person can accomplish more than somebody else can, it adds a little bit more competition, which is nice, maybe. It depends on where you are in that, but we're going to certainly have to adjust what we're doing, as I do see, we're a smaller firm. I feel like we have an advantage in that, over some of the larger firms, in that we can grow faster and not have to change as much in order to do it. Where if you were a mega company, you now have to integrate this in, and you have all those research assistants that potentially need to be reshuffled around and, find something else for them to do, or layoffs, and then they'll enter the job market somewhere else.
We were already doing that in Intelligent Relations, this very thing that you're talking about. We had these researchers, wonderful, brilliant people But what we've done is we've redeployed them into tagging data and making it more valuable, right? So it wasn't a great leap for them to move over to be able to provide that kind of capability. And that really does come down to individuals right now for having to tag data in order to be able to leverage it better and give greater insight. I mean, that's part of the thing here. AI, as part of that research, can go deeper and farther than the individual can, and to be able to come back with really valuable information that can be acted upon almost instantly. But let me get back to something you said. What you were talking about, smaller businesses and how they'll be able to use AI versus larger businesses. I absolutely agree with you in the beginning. Smaller businesses are going to be able to move faster because your data points are going to be fewer. Your interactions with the customer or how you're actually implementing your practice, there'll be fewer data points, intersections there. With a corporation, there are a whole lot more. So enabling AI is going to be the next big thing, whether it's for small businesses or large businesses. And the large businesses are going to take a lot longer. But once they do, it'll be very, very powerful. So right now, most people, if they're saying they're AI enabled, if they've been doing it for less than 4 years, it's more like, yeah, you're doing some really simple ChatGPT stuff and bringing it in. But ultimately, what's going to have to happen here is every single business is going to have to break down all of their processes, all of their applications, and go, where is AI a best fit here? Where it will speed things up, add more intelligence, be able to better leverage the data we already have. And that's going to take years to do in some situations. But as it happens, we are going to feel the benefits of it almost immediately. Here's one that everybody wants to see, and that AI really can make a difference: climate change, right? I don't know about you, but I see it. I mean, I see it. I live in California. I see the climate change happening. It's here. And as a citizen, I don't know what to do, right? I do my recycling, I separate everything, but is that enough? AI is going to actually be able to personalize our ability to impact climate change as individuals as well as businesses and corporations. And that's something very exciting. And that is right around the corner. And actually, even today, I mean, you could sit down with ChatGPT and ask it, this is what I do, this is what I have. How can I make things better? Why not?
Right. And so going back to something you said a little while ago about you've got staff they were research assistants and now they're tagging different. Well, I guess they're tagging different research to make it more valuable. I think that's the important part to remember, is that AI is as robust as it is. It can't do anything without us playing a part. And in fact, on either probably a podcast, because that's usually how I consume information, but it might have been an article. I heard that I believe it was ChatGPT, but it might have been Bard, gotten a ton of trouble for filtering out web results that we don't want as part of this language model. So there's a lot of dark things on the web, or maybe for all I know, it might have been in one of your interviews. I'm not sure. I can't remember where I heard that, but it's very interesting to think that if we don't monitor it, if we don't, and I know we're going to get into this in a little bit, if we don't prompt it well, or if we don't take the information that we get and parse it well, it doesn't know what we want. It's still a computer program, at its base model. So we need to, the humans need to be part of that process. We can't just like press a button and walk away. We need to, in order to improve it, in order to do a better job marketing or in any business than our competitors, we still need to be involved. And this is going to require us to be involved at a much higher level than before. So everyone is sort of a step up. We get all this information, but we need to learn how to use it, basically.
It is incredibly important. When client server came into being, when we moved off the mainframe and went to client server, it was hard. IT became the most important element in any business. How do you keep everything connected? How do you keep the APIs up and running? How do you get two pieces of software to talk to each other? This consumed people and still consumes people.
Right.
We are at that place with AI. It's at the very beginning. We're trying to make these connections. We're trying to make connections to applications we use, to how we move through the world, how we think about our business, how we think about our personal lives, and how do we bring that into prompts that are actually useful moving forward. But I want to touch on something to your point of how important it is for tagging. Just yesterday, I was doing some research, and literally, I always have at least 2 computers open with 2 different forms of AI at any given moment. I'll have another one, two AIs running on one computer, one on the other. And I was doing something on training, how to personalize training, right? Really getting into what is it that I need to have in place to make that occur. And the first 3 things that came up were brilliant, especially the first one, brilliant. But then the next 3 were nonsense. I mean, total nonsense. And that's what everybody has to watch out for. It's like putting out a letter and not doing a spell check on it, right? You really need to be watching this because it's in its infancy at the moment. And all of us are learning how best to speak to whatever AI platform we use. And that's not just individuals, but also engineers, right? What algorithm is going to be the right algorithm for me? What learning algorithm is the appropriate one for this processing that I want it to use? They're not all created equal. So we're all learning this simultaneously as we go.
Absolutely. And so you said just use the other A word, algorithm. So I think the other thing about AI that most people don't realize is it's been here. It's just now been named. So I don't know if it's fair to say an algorithm is AI, but on some level it's doing things that a person isn't doing, right? So Google, they don't even know what's running there. They've been asked, I know that they're currently being sued by Department of Justice for their ad policies, but when asked like how does rankings work, it's not like they can figure that out. They kind of know what's in the program that does it, and there are people that go through, and again, their version of tagging is sort of a double checking and trying to make the algorithm better, but it's being run by machine learning. Like it's not a simple program anymore. It has a life of its own. So this AI that we talk about now, because ChatGPT made it in the public knowledge, it's been around for, I'm assuming, decades, but certainly for a decade. And it's just now got a name, and it's now something that, the layperson can play around with, which makes it, way more in the public knowledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, I would suspect Mr. Page does know exactly how those ads work, but that's another story altogether.
Right.
But in AI, yeah, in my early days at HP, we were working on AI in the late 80s, and it was just we didn't have the horsepower to make this happen. But it has continued to evolve since the 80s, and you're absolutely right. It's funny, I got to watch the first Colbert again after all these months last night, and Neil deGrasse Tyson was on and saying, we've been living in an AI world for years. So you're absolutely right. It's been in the background, it's been in algorithms, but in very small ways, very segmented ways that were very specific to how it was being implemented. And this is the first time that people have really had access. It's like having the computer for the first time or the smartphone for the first time. We're really at that place. And this is as significant as both of those elements, the internet. I keep looking at it, and when we went through the phase of introducing the internet and smartphones, it was a dramatic change. And people resisted and then eventually came around and all that. It'll be exactly the same thing here. And we will all learn the best ways for us to use it, just as we do with the phones. And it will overwhelm us at times, just like phone usage does. We're going to have to learn how to work with that too.
I'm constantly blocking, setting, reminders to stop using it and trying not to use it as much and looking at screen time alerts. It's ever present for sure. But I remember first computer year, I was in 6th grade for that. We got it. It was a Christmas gift for the family, changed everything. I remember internet, first year of college, it was around before that, but that was when it really became a thing. Smartphones, I don't know if that for me, that changed things a little bit less so. For me, the other two were massive changes.
Yeah.
Smartphones obviously changed things, but to me, it just sort of miniaturized the things that existed. So it made it more convenient. But
it made it stickier because it was in your
for
pocket.
Sure. It is stickier.
Get away from it.
Right.
And AI, I mean, look at Siri. All of these things are all AI based. So they're already in our homes. We are used to talking to AI already. It's just what we have now with Chat and Claude and Bard all are so much more sophisticated and able to synthesize data in a way that is beyond the series of the world.
Right. And so we did when we first started the podcast, we did a 2023 prediction episode. And one of my predictions has already more than come true, which is that AI would be in every marketing platform that we use. And I think it's gotten to the point of ridiculousness for marketing purposes where it's in platforms it doesn't even need to be in. And I guess the question I have for you is, this sort of small business versus large business, small versus large business. So for us, we're a smaller business. We are likely not going to create AI, at least at this phase for Skyline. We're not going to create our own AI, tied into our own servers of data. So we're going to be utilizing AI built into the platforms that we subscribe to. So whether it's for image generation like DALL-E, or whether it's for, writing, more specific writing tools, leveraging ChatGPT or things like that. Is that where you see the difference between the small businesses that are essentially subscribing to an AI service versus a mega corporation that they now have a team of AI experts that are going to build one for their specific business, for using their specific customer data, using their specific industry, proprietary AI, where it's really going to make an impact and give them a leverage over the other mega corporation that they're competing against?
At the end of the day, the small business will always be able to do more personalization than a larger company, no matter if they have AI or not, because you're actually hearing the customer, you're touching the customer, or client or whomever. You are actually involved in a way that AI can never be. So corporations, while yes, think about it in healthcare, right? A concierge healthcare doctor is going to be able to know you, is working with fewer patients, is going to actually have, forgive me, your best interest at heart, because they know you, they know who you are, they know your lifestyle. Once you're into a larger medical establishment, they can only do so much. They can know a bit about you. They have the data. They have all the information on sheets and in the database, and they can make connections, right? Especially for unusual illnesses and things like that. But it's not going to have that personalization that a small business will have. And that will always be the advantage of a small business, with AI or without AI. When you start leveraging bigger elements, you're trying to reduce cost. You're making things more generic. AI is going to be brilliant at that, at improving the level of quality overall, but it'll never beat out the small business who can actually care about a customer, because it can't care. That's the difference.
Truly can't. And that's good to hear. And you bring up healthcare, which I hope that AI and just big tech eventually, if you take out the privacy concerns, which there is obviously plenty, get us to the point where within the next 20 years or so, a lot of what great doctors, nurses, and other support staff are doing is documenting and dealing with essentially paperwork for insurance companies. And it would be great if we get to the point where, yeah, you're right, the small hometown doctor, if that will exist in 20 years, I don't know, will have even more time. And maybe the bigger medical corporations will have more time as well, because we can take some of that off of their plates, and AI can it would be amazing if there was something listening, whether it's a software or just a recording that then is put into software, and that and all the medical equipment is tied into software as well, and that there's your chart. Like there's no need to type it up because the conversation is, AI has parsed through the conversation. It knows what's valuable. When you're taking temperature and blood pressure and things like that, it's all tied in, so you don't have to do that, and now you can have that conversation. That's a super easy way to think about it, but that technology can exist for any corporation and any business. And that's what, so I'm more excited about that than I am about, writers losing their, worried about writers losing their jobs and photographers losing their jobs, because again, if you're good at it, it will give you more time. So the photography example, my brother brings this up all the time, and I have a couple friends that are hardcore at photography, that, photography is gone. And in some ways it is. The editing process is, the days of the darkroom, which was before, my brother did a little bit of that in college. I did a little bit in high school in sort of the shop class or tech ed class or whatever it was, but really never did it in my professional life. And that's when you would belabor over a specific, a single photo for hours to edit it and get it to the right place. Now you can batch process hundreds or thousands of photos at once, and you bring AI into that, and it's really dark. You can get rid of noise, and you can certainly add some AI elements to it. So it will allow you to give that attention, where you're either, give that broad attention to all of them, and then pick that one photo that you have this time for your client that you can really spend some time on, and you can really add that personal touch, where AI can't do that. Obviously, they can't be at the wedding. So there's no AI bot to take those photos yet, although that might come too.
Right. Drone will be doing with the bot, but yes,
right.
Okay.
But the fact that we can then give that attention to specific photos and specific writing, and because the mundane has been taken care of.
Yeah.
And you might only spend time on 5 or 10 photos, and then you're still delivering 1,000 of them, and the rest of them are taken care of by AI, which is amazing. Or you can give some more attention to the time there, because you don't have to worry about, did I get the right shot? Because you did.
That's right.
You don't have to take 500, the spray and pray, which I know the best photographers don't do, or at least say they don't do. You can now focus on, well, I got it. I know I got it because we can change the focus. We can change the colors. All of this can be taken care of later. And now I can be present. It'll allow for something like that. Again, the doctor can be present. The photographer can be more present. So it'll allow us to do more with our minds that way, instead of the manual processes that we have now. So, to me, that's the more exciting piece of this. Is now it'll be hard. The worst photographers, the worst writers, the worst doctors, they're going to burn out or be placed out because they won't be able to evolve with it. But the ones that really use it will now be able to do a better job, which is what we're all looking for.
I have a different take on this.
Okay. Good.
As an artist myself, I've thought about this because I know it really upsets some artists, the concept of AI and AI being able to do their job or whatever. I look at it very differently. I see it, one is AI is just another tool in an artist's toolbox. It's a different camera, it's a different brush, whatever you want, whatever your methodology is. And it's just another tool. Some people will gravitate to it and say, yeah, this is the way I want to base all of my initial work. Others won't. But here's the thing that's happening. It happened back to I point to Napster as the beginning of all this. Napster decided that music, nobody had to pay for music anymore. And then after that, we had Limelight, right? Something like that. Yeah. And then movies became available to everyone. You didn't have to pay for movies. So this concept of not having to pay artists has been going on now for the last 20, 25 years. I actually think it is gone. You will not be able to make, those people who can have a marketing persona put around them can still make money on art, but basically it's gone. And I don't see it coming back anytime soon. But at the end of the day, that's not going to stop an artist. If you're an artist, you will create art. there's no two ways about it. You will continue to produce because it's something that you have to do. It's not something you want to do. You have no choice in the matter. So artists will always be creating art, and they will always be able to reach an audience that appreciates the way they see the world, their vision of the world, and that the audiences might get smaller and smaller, and who knows, AI might be able to identify, put those connections together. I mean, I'm on Instagram, and it feels like shouting into the void. It's like, I don't know who's out there and who may hear, who may not hear, but whatever, right? And AI is going to be able to connect you with the people who do. They're going to go out, they're going to see your artwork, whatever that is, be that written or otherwise, and it'll say, hey, this is the group of people who are looking at something similar. You might want to see that. And I know Instagram sort of does that now, but it'll be even more so. It really actually will be specific. You will start having like-minded people coming together. And so it's more about community art. AI will help develop more community in art than, I don't see artists making money for a long, long time to come. Art has become something that the general public feels a right to and access to. And for the good or the bad of it, that just is what it is. And the world has changed since the time of the Italian Renaissance, when people, the special crafting people were held in high regard. That moment has disappeared. So now it's marketeers who develop artists into what we know as the great artists. And you know what? That might have been even happening back then, for all we know. So I'm not as worried about that per se. But to go back to the healthcare concept of it eliminating the nonsense, how many times do I have to fill out a form every time I go to the doctor? And it's the same last form. It's like, are you kidding me? So that all gets eliminated. But dare I go back to a buzzword of last year, which is blockchain. Blockchain's going to do that. And blockchain will be tied into AI. So it's going to be all connected ultimately. But blockchain will eliminate a lot of that data repetition. And oh, by the way, it's really going to get rid of jobs. And so nobody's talking about that. I'm sure AI will be accused of the elimination of those jobs. But it's really blockchain for, everyone who's like a title company. And if you've ever bought a house or a condo or whatever, you get all these pieces of paper at the end you have to sign, even with DocuSign now. The blockchain is going to get rid of all of that. This is the house, this is who's owned it, this is the details, and it will just follow it along. You're not going to have endless streams of paper to sign off on. And that'll be true with healthcare too. This stuff will all be in blockchain. That's what's going to protect it. That's the way it'll go down. But that's an old buzzword. I know it's last year's buzzword. But it is so closely tied to AI, and those will be some of the things, real benefits we'll have moving forward.
Right. And so I love blockchain. I think it's great. I actually think that, so the little bit that as I've been exploring Web3 and blockchain, I think that it's ultimately going to be the death of social media as we know it. And, if you looked at your blockchain number, like let's say there's a Paula blockchain number, right? Wouldn't it be great if you could tie that into all of your communication? And so if the two of us are communicating, I might have an access level different than someone in your family versus different than someone in your company. And when you had something that you wanted to broadcast, you would be able to use the Fediverse or whatever replaces that. And now you could set different levels of exposure and you could get a message out. No matter what, hey, I'm going to be on a podcast today. Your family might not care or they might love it. Who knows? But you'd be able to parse people into different categories. And now that becomes your mailing address, essentially,
yes.
To and from. And we don't have to have 10 different email addresses. We don't have to, like Google, Facebook, and Twitter and so on, have as much data on us and control as much. I'm sure they'll figure out a way to make their money, but it will allow us to do that. And it would be amazing. I didn't think about it with medical, but wouldn't it be amazing if our watches that, everyone's getting smart watches, if that was tied into an algorithm or an AI, and it's following your heart rate, and that's going into your medical file, and they're slowly watching that tick up and like, hey Jim, you're stressed. You should probably we made an appointment for you. You're going to see the doctor next week because we're seeing something here that matches other data that we have that there might be something going on, and we want you to be seen. So, as we battle through again privacy issues and just getting used to this technology, it will eliminate some of those steps, and that will allow us again to focus on other stuff, which is super exciting. So yeah, I'm super excited about blockchain. I didn't think about that in the realm of AI, but you're right. It's the data, so the AI can then parse through that, and we'll give it access to do certain things.
And that's in a best case scenario. That is exactly the vision, and wouldn't that be wonderful? And forgive me, but the kumbaya aspect of it all, right, that we could all be happy. Which brings us to the ethical issues, right? There are, and things that people should be concerned about with AI. That's the dream, what you just described. But the problem is the moment that you put money into that model, then it gets corrupted, right?
Or any model, right?
Right. So there's got to be a balance here. But this goes to ethical issues and why regulation is going to be important down the road. Now, there are several bills in front of Congress right now that are promoted back last year, partly around this. If you start having control over people's data, what can you do with it and what can't you do with it? But the other piece of it is what bias is being incorporated into these algorithms. What data sets are being included that are already contain bias? So, everything from loan approvals to healthcare, you may or may not know, but almost all studies are done strictly with men. They're not done with women. They're not done with minorities. So everything that's done, this is really big in the heart space, heart and cancer. So that, here's a great example. If you are being given a drug for, you name it, whatever it is, me, I'm given the same dosage as you would be given as a guy, or my husband who's much larger than I am. And because there's only one dosage, they don't take into consideration that women are smaller and et cetera. So these biases are now being fed into these huge AI algorithms and systems. And those things, so one of the regulations Cory Booker put forward was that every big AI engine like this has to be looked at every 6 months or a year by somebody, a bias, and somebody looking for bias to make sure that it doesn't perpetuate itself, which is what it's going to do if that doesn't happen. So those issues are very real. Those ethics issues are, until those get put in place, what information we do give AI becomes, it's just like when you go out on the internet, you're opening yourself up to anything and everyone.
Right.
It's going to be like that, basically. AI is inert. It doesn't care, but the people who are running it or have the background, those are the people we aren't under any kind of regulation or control.
Yeah, and the control that it will have, and the power that it will have that's almost the more scary part than is it going to replace jobs, using it wisely. Because I see, during we talked last week, and before that, as I was sort of thinking about this, I could see it running our email inboxes. And if it is deciding, if you plug in, listen, I need more time. I get hundreds of emails every week. I need more time and I need more focus so that I can, respond to Paula's email and ignore somebody else's. If I do that and I give it that power to essentially be my email inbox assistant, and there's some sort of, corporate rule on, sitting on top of that, it might, supersede what I'm telling it to do without us knowing. And it might make decisions that it thinks are in my best interest, but are not, because it's, again, acting on other rules that we don't know about. So yeah, that part is a little scarier, I think. but yeah, with transparency and with some oversight, I do think that, that will all be figured out. But, it's going to be controlling a lot of stuff for us. Yeah.
Somebody sent me one just the other day, an AI tool that goes through my mailbox and decides what I should look at and what I shouldn't. And I'm sure it'd be wonderful. I actually get a ridiculous number of emails a day, and it would be wonderful to have. But I stopped for the very reason that you just said. Do I really want it making those decisions for me? I mean, it's bad. This is a spam junk folder on steroids all of a sudden, right? Do I want it to actually be doing that kind of analysis on my inbox? And I'm not sure I do yet. I'm not there yet, for the very reasons you described.
Yeah, I'm not there yet either. There was a program I used years ago called Unroll Me, which was not there. I don't know. I'm sure there was probably AI in it, but it was a simple way to, it was a simpler version of, put this in this folder so I don't have to look at it until later. And then it was there. So it wasn't getting rid of stuff for me. It wasn't doing anything complex, but it was parsing stuff out. It was a more complicated or a complex version of what we have now with, if you use Gmail, there's your promotional inbox and your financial inbox or whatever those are. So it was a little bit more robust than that, but it wasn't making decisions. It was just following your decisions. And that still didn't work for me. So, I don't think I'm there yet either, but it's coming. And as an email marketer, we're going to have to battle that because, how are we going to be seen over emails from Banana Republic or The Gap or whoever else? They're going to know how to play the game a little bit better because they might have engineers that are engineering AI that can best the AI, or who knows. But I could see there being a lot of AI talking to AI, and us having to figure out as the human people in here how to make it work. So,
I just got this vision as you're talking. It is going to wash over us like a big wave. It's just going to wash over us. You just got to hold firm and know what it is you want as you're going forward when you're making these decisions, because there are going to be more and more of these software products that are saying, listen, we're going to make this so much better for you in this way and this way. I think it's really important to think about what the downside of that is. And you know what? You can ask your favorite AI chat, whatever. Say, you know what? I'm thinking about using this product and it does this. What are the downsides? Just any question you have in your life at this point. What's the worst that happens if you ask the question? You don't like the answer or you don't think it's so correct, then move on. But if it gives you insights that you've never had before, then that gets pretty interesting, right? I mean, I think I said to you the other day, I really believe that the only limitation of AI is our imaginations. And so these days, anytime I come up with a question or something I'm really struggling with, or I need a creative piece of inspiration on something, I just turn to AI. It's there. And I don't have to accept it whole cloth, but I have the opportunity to get. It's like having an intellectual friend next to me who's also thinking about the same things, right? And giving me some additional ways of looking at stuff. I'm a fan. Can you tell?
Yeah, I know you're a fan. I'm a big fan too. I wish I was using it more. I try to find excuses to use it almost every day. I know you're probably using it every hour, or pretty much most of the day.
Most of the day.
But I'm finding that I'm leaning on it more and more, and I think it's great. And something that I've been saying a lot over the last year is that I really think that in addition to job positions sort of flattening, so, again, that research assistant moves up or moves out, depending on if they want, a different career, I do think it's going to flatten what's produced. So, bringing us all to the middle if it's not used well. So if you're, the example in my mind is, when we get newsletters from the school, it's still using MS Paint and, the photos are all warped and, it's using weird clip art. And could you imagine when, the person, that person's overworked, they didn't study design or marketing and they shouldn't have had to, if they could just drop some images and drop some text into some sort of platform and say, make me a school newsletter. And then now that will match the quality of a professionally designed school newsletter. And for them, it will only improve. But now if the design firms that are now competing against now this person who is not in marketing does the same thing. They've been brought down because we crave that novelty. And so we need to, so we will all, the lower will be better and we will consume a better school newsletter. But if the upper echelon has been now brought down, there's that differentiator isn't there, and we need that person to use it better, I guess, in order to raise it.
Yeah, I had this conversation with my husband just last night. This is the exact conversation. He says, because we were talking about the strike and the concerns around AI and all. In my mind, it right to your point, it will absolutely improve people who aren't familiar with whatever their job is, or they're trying to raise up there in a junior position, they want to move up. It will give them additional resource, give them new ways to be thinking about their job, to be able to improve. But great writers are always going to be great writers. It's just like if I get a press release from a junior person versus a senior person, I know the difference because the senior person gets more to the specifics, really understand the topic. AI generates great average material. It's average. It's just average. If you don't add your unique insights and your value, then it's average. And, I just don't. Every school teacher is going to be able to recognize an AI written paper. Every production house is going to recognize if a writer is trying to pass something off that's AI. It's not that AI might not have great ideas, but if you're expecting it to actually write something complete, it'll be So, and that's okay because it's just giving ideas. It's supposed to be giving you a framework, an outline. You get to add in your special sauce, your special knowledge. And that is always going to be the case.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that will always be the case. If AI improves, let's pretend that all of a sudden it doesn't write just average, it becomes above average. If I'm doing work for a plumbing company and every plumbing website looks exactly the same, well, there's no novelty, there's no differentiator. Why am I picking one over the other than just price, which is not the only reason people pick things because of. And so now the marketing firms, when that day comes, when you press a button and all of a sudden you get a plumbing website, there will be other ways that we have to bring that novelty and bring that uniqueness. And so why am I picking ABC plumbing versus XYZ plumbing? It's because of whatever the thing at the time. We have, it's the photos of that, of the staff, it's the story, it's the things that we haven't thought of yet. But marketers will come up with this because that's our job. Really, is why am I picking A over B? What makes this one more unique? What makes this one a better fit for me? And so if AI brings us all to the same point, and we get lazy, well, it'll be the ones that aren't lazy that use it as a tool and build upon it.
Exactly. Even in art, right? So with me, I'm a photographer and a painter and pen and ink. And when I played with Imagine Art is my favorite, but I needed to represent some historical figures. In the end, it was my knowledge of those historical figures that defined what AI generated. If you were to add your perspective on, for one was Winston Churchill, right? So I have a background of knowing who he is and what he cares about. So I was able to put that into my imagery. And you would probably have different things that would come up for you with regards to this person and how you envision him. So each of us is going to create our own Winston Churchill, even if we're using AI. I just, again, see it as a different paintbrush as we move forward. And it's going to be your view of color, of composition, all of that is going to be that ultimate image, even though the canvas is going to be AI.
Oh, then that's, at the crux of it, that's art. Why is Jackson Pollock, why is he a genius? I don't know if he is, but a lot of people in the art world think he is. He throws paint on a canvas, right? Or did.
That's right.
I could do that. Probably not as well. But it was sometimes it's being first, sometimes it's being different. I can see us putting a huge price tag on things that are, I think as this evolves, things will be tagged as not AI. I can prove this somehow, that this was created with my hands only. And that will be the most coveted art because it's different. And that's why he's Jackson Pollock, and everyone else who's done it after him are just throwing paint on the canvas. Right. So that's our world's always been pushing the limits, being different, trying different mediums, mixing them. That's that novelty. We crave that. We as humans, once we've seen things 50 times, it's the next thing. We're moving. Our brain is looking for that. So, and art is probably the best place to see that. Because it's evolved a ton over the centuries. But then there's some people that go back and do the classics in a different way. So, sometimes what's old is new, and I think that will continue to evolve, and that's, whether or not we're paying a lot of money for art, or it's like you said, that craving inside of us to just create it. I don't know, but it'll be there, and it'll be different somehow.
Absolutely. And you know what? Jackson Pollock's a great example. Jackson Pollock wouldn't be Jackson Pollock without Peggy Guggenheim. Peggy Guggenheim is who marketed Jackson Pollock, who made him who he is. And You know what? Marketeers like us are going to be defining those next generation artists, healthcare applications, finance applications, all of those elements that are going to come forward are going to be marketeers who know how to leverage AI, who know how to bring a new concept forward and be able to show the value to the consumer.
Yep, and that's marketing kind of at its core for sure.
Yep.
Well, this is a great discussion. I want to finish this up talking a little bit about your company, Intelligent Relations.
Sure.
So you're the COO. It's a PR firm, different, an AI PR firm.
That's correct.
Skyline was in PR 20 years ago for about 5 years, when basically got out of it in 2008 when, half or 3/4 of magazines shut down and just the industry changed. So type of PR we were doing were the type of thing now that's been taken over by social media, basically. So, it was about getting smaller companies and smaller brands exposure, and, people needed content, and that's how it was being consumed globally. And now that type of content is again more done by social media, where there's ways to get exposure and there's ways to get these companies and people out there. But with the magazine and publication industry shrinking, it's different now. So, there's ways to get on the press, but it's done in the more core PR fashion. Very niche and maybe more publicity driven is why we got out of it. But you're in it. And so tell me a little bit about how, about the PR industry, how it's evolving. I think if I have this right, the name of yours is not ChatGPT, it's Preston. Is that correct?
Preston, that's right.
Okay, so Preston is your AI genius behind the scenes.
Yep.
How does it work, and how do you see that industry evolving?
Absolutely. So it's interesting. It's very much what we've been talking about. We are using AI to be able to do that absolute introduction between people, the individuals getting together, right? So that it's very personalized. So I come out of PR, had a firm for decades, and that was traditional PR, brilliant, great. There is still a place for traditional PR. But what AI does, why I switched over, I said, now this is the future. This is where it has to go, because there's so much in PR that is repetitive and time consuming, building lists and all the things. As you were describing the healthcare, I was thinking, that's all PR. This can all be automated now. And that's part of what AI does. But one of the brilliant aspects of Preston that we created in Intelligent Relations is it's an AI platform. So yes, it is built on OpenAI, ChatGPT, but also a variety of AI algorithms, both public and proprietary. And so what we've done is we started out, so the company is just over 3 years old. So we've been working on this for a while, and we started out monitoring the media. So what are all the pubs out there that are putting out content? What are they focused on? How often are they coming out? Where are the topics going? that sort of thing. So we really understand the publications, who their audiences are, and what their focus is. Then the next thing we were focused on was going out and capturing journalists. So we have hundreds of thousands of journalists that we are tracking, and we literally are tracking them on a minute to minute basis, so that we know when they're writing about stuff, when they're adding comments to things, that we know really what they care about in a wide variety of industries. So we're looking at where is their focus today? Where was their focus 3 months ago? Where was their focus 2 years ago? And how has that evolved? And where are their areas that they specialize in? So then when we have our clients, and by the way, we're always learning about these journalists. We're constantly learning who they are and what they care about. On our client basis, so when a client comes in, first thing we're doing is scraping their website. We have all the information on their website, how they present themselves, what they're thinking about. And as we go along, we're constantly evolving that. So every time we reach out to somebody in the media, we're capturing that information. So ultimately what's happening, and what has never happened before in PR, unless you had really, really talented people who'd been in an industry for 10 years, they could say, oh, yes, this is the person at IDC. I really want to connect, with this journalist, with my client. They could make those connections in their head because they had all that experience. With Preston, it's actually automatically figuring that out. It's saying, these are the 5 journalists you want to approach. They really care about this story, and they will take it to the next level. And oh, by the way, here's how we can suggest other ways of expanding on things they've already written in the past, and such to, yes, interest them, but to inspire them as well. That's an interesting article to write. I'd be curious on being able to do that based on this is what this company is doing and how they're doing it. That's something that's never been done before, and why it is absolutely so brilliant. And I'm so sold that, because it's just a value add for everyone in the food chain. It's a value add for the client who's not just spending money and hoping something happens. It's a value add for the journalist who's not getting bombarded by emails that they don't care about. And it's a value add for the publications to be able to get the right information as well. So everybody, I'm sorry, the reader. I knew there was a third one there. And the reader.
What about the readers?
That they're getting what they actually want, right? That they're not getting halfway through an article and going, wow, this is completely irrelevant, not something I'm at all interested in. So that's what we can do. And it's getting better every day, because the longer it goes, the more information, the more knowledge it's capturing. And not for nothing, as you said, the media, once ads went away, the media landscape changed a lot. So obviously there's still top tier media and such, but what's filling in that is wonderful people like you. Podcasting right. Is growing like crazy, and it's what people have time to do now, as opposed to sit down and reading a 10-page article. They can consume an hour's worth of a podcast, working out, driving, whatever it is. So this is sort of the future of media, and thank you for letting me be part of it with you.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I guess I didn't think of myself as media, but I guess I'm media now.
You are.
Hopefully we're in Preston.
You are. That's how I'm talking to you.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so you found us through Preston. That's great. So Paula reached out. That's how we got connected. And then, like I said, we spoke last week and knew this would be a great fit.
That's it.
And yeah, I think it's exciting. And, we used to do like the spray and pray. When we were doing PR, we did both. We knew people, we knew the connection would be there. And we mentioned articles that they were interested in and that they had written. And also we also did the not to be done spray and pray, where you just email 500 people and hope for the best. And the targeted one always works better. It takes a lot longer for sure. And now, so you're the magic that you've provided is it doesn't take longer. You still have to read the articles. You still that's the part to remember is if it's saying Jim will be interested in this because of XYZ, and then you say like, hey Jim, I loved that article you wrote, and then we start talking and it's clear that you didn't read it, that would be bad. So it's not like this eliminates everything, but the fact that you can narrow in on the person and narrow in on the article and narrow in on the topic. And so when you're when you're doing this research, is it also their social accounts? So like, what if,
Yes.
so I'm obviously interested in marketing, but what if my tweets were all about cooking? I don't know. I mean, they're not, but what if they were? Would it bring that in? Like, Jim's also kind of interested in cooking? Because
it would.
Okay. That's great.
For the good or the bad of that, but it's out there in the public. So yes, indeed. So it is a way to do it. But by the way, I want to touch on one of the things that you said. I mean, if we were just to put that out generically out to the world, here you can make these connections and stuff, you would get the people who are reading it or attempting to figure out how to do PR, it would be generic in response. But because we have account managers with real training and real experience, they can take that data that Preston is giving them and add to it, add value to the outreach that's, that is going to the journalist or the editor. They can add that their knowledge. I want to say that's what makes it special, right? The thing we were talking about with art and everything. A person can take what the basics that AI gives you, and actually add to it because they have additional knowledge. So we find that is incredibly valuable and makes a difference.
That's amazing. This was such a great conversation. If listeners want to reach out, how can they find you?
Paula at intelligentrelations.com will do it. Paula at paulaphelan.com will do it.
Okay. And so intelligentrelations.com is the corporate website, and you're also on LinkedIn at Paula Phelan.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I love this. I have a feeling that AI is going to be part of our conversation here for a long time to come. So I'd love to have you back.
Thanks.
And I hope everybody enjoyed this, and thank you so much for joining us. You can watch this also on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Like and subscribe, and we will see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.